Today we're going to talk about the part that is not necessarily measurable about home ownership. How much money am I going to be spending on this house? Now, obviously, I can only give you estimations of what things cost for a house, but let's talk about what I like to call the major systems. A roof is easily one of the most expensive things that you're going to replace on your house. Now that depends whether or not you have a townhouse or a single family home. Take it from somebody who knows from experience that when the roof needs to be replaced, it needs to be replaced. You cannot wait. The entire integrity of your home can be sacrificed if you do not replace that roof when it needs to be replaced. Also, some people think that they'll wait a long time and be like, oh, okay, I can get it out of it, there's no problems. But the problem that you don't see is that the water is seeping underneath the shingles that need to be replaced, and they're getting that plywood underneath, which is called the flashing. They're getting all of that to be wet and then deteriorated and then rotten and then moldy, and then inside your attic it's moldy, and then all of a sudden you have a gigantic mushroom cloud of a problem where if you had just replaced the roof to begin with, you would have had a lot less expenses to incur yourself. I'm not BSing you. A lot of people will say, I can't tell you how much it is to replace that roof because I don't know how big your house is. And honestly, the square footage of the roof is one of the biggest determinants of how much you're going to spend on the roof replacement. Another major system that you will need to replace on your home that I have also replaced, take it from me, is your HVAC. Depending on what kind of system you have, whether it's oil, gas, heat pump, there's outside components, there's inside components, there's a boiler sometimes. The HVAC, depending on what kind of a system you have, is definitely up there in price. But I would say that roof and HVAC are probably tied if you have to replace both systems with being most expensive. Something that is not applicable to all houses, but when it's applicable, you'll know, is a waterproofing system. I've had a lot of houses, the entire transaction goes to shit because of basement issues with water. I'm going to say something that might be slightly controversial, and I want everyone to prepare themselves for it. If you call up a waterproofing company, they will come to your house and they will give you an estimate for $15,000 for any kind of system that they're going to install. But every client that I have had that calls a waterproofing company, they say, of course, we will install a waterproofing system. We will charge you usually between $10,000 and $15,000. What I feel that most waterproofing companies don't do is say, well, but do you really need this? Because you have already called them and you've already asked them to give you an estimate, yeah, they're going to take you for all you're worth, 10 to 15 G's right off the bat. But it's important for you to do your due diligence through your home inspection, also through just living in the house sometimes, and figuring out if you really need that full-on waterproofing system. We're going to talk about some of the cosmetic things in a home that people usually want to do. Now, there is no way for me to tell you how much does a kitchen cost, but I can tell you how you can do a kitchen on the cheap. For me, the way to do kitchens on the cheap is to, number one, start by just painting your cabinets and seeing if that makes an improvement to what you already have there. Also changing out the pulls on the doors, or if you have no pulls, like my house had no pulls, putting them on. It's often just that little bit of wow factor, just that little bit of shine that you're like, ooh, that's sleek. Similar would be in bathrooms. I'm a big proponent of putting in a new floor. A ceramic tile floor is really not that expensive if you use the cheapest kind of tiles that are out there. They sell them at Home Depot for like 89 cents. They're huge and you can easily, just materials alone, you can tile a small half bath for, I don't know, $200. A toilet, a sink, those are all really, really cheap things if we look at the grand scheme of home improvements. So I say you could easily renovate a full bath if you were to pick your own fixtures and purchase them yourself without labor for $3,000. I think that's something that you could do. Tune in next time when we talk about the fun part of finding a house, which is the actual home search, living that HGTV dream and making an offer. I'll drink to that.